I had the pleasure of visiting Orchestra Hall in downtown Chicago last Saturday evening for a performance by the Chicago Symphony Orchestra of the film music from the 1984 film Amadeus, the music of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. During the course of the evening, I became aware that I was within a story within a story. It was the story of the audience, and it was a story of the orchestra playing music for the audience. And the music from the orchestra was accompanying the 1984 film, which was the story of the composer of the music. And in telling his story, it was the story of the stories he wrote music for opera and ballet. Most notably, the story of the Marriage of Figaro, which was a politically controversial story at the time that was actually banned. In the story, it was just too controversial, the purview and prerogatives of nobility and the people he ruled. During the course of the evening, I scanned the audience. I became aware that of the nearly 2,400 people assembled, probably most of us were unaware how any of us happened to arrive at this time and place in history to find ourselves in this strange, strange time, a story within a story. Welcome to Illinois Bridging Awareness. I'm Stanley Smith. Each week at Illinois Bridging Awareness, we're trying to shuffle our way through the different storylines, the individual storylines of our lives and our collective life together here in Illinois and in the nation and around the world. We're trying to navigate our way through what seems to be one act, which certainly will be followed by some amazing, surprising act in the next scene. Last week we had Pat, the ex-coordinator from Missouri, and we were joined also by Roxanne Burrs. And Pat continued her story about being the ex-coordinator from Missouri and her insights about being involved in a relationship with a psychopath and some of the warning signs to look for that could indicate you might be included in or be involved in a cult. And then Roxanne shared her insight into the anxiety and frustration of waiting, waiting for that second act, which surely is going to arrive at any moment. Pat shared with us, as she continued to explain her experience, that she sees us as being in one of three places, individually and collectively at any time. And she described this as the first state being unconscious of being unconscious, that most of us start out and probably spend most of our lives in the state of being completely unconscious and unaware that we're unconscious. And the second level of awareness is being conscious of being unconscious, like the idea that something's amiss, something's lacking, or something's wrong, and that also might be as far as you get. You might just never rise above that. But the final state that we could aspire to and hopefully rise to would be being conscious of being conscious. And that might be something akin to what I sometimes get in trouble for calling Christ consciousness. And it might be something just simply beyond our grasp or our conception, but somewhere on the spectrum between being unconscious of being unconscious, conscious of being unconscious, and being conscious of being conscious. We fall in there, and I do think most of us fall in the middle area where we're waking up to the idea that, you know what, we're half asleep, we're half in the bag, and we're unconscious. And because I like to look for symmetries and alignments, I'm working on trying to find, what kind of behaviors and beliefs and thinking lines up with those three different buckets of being. And I'm thinking that in the very first state, the unconsciousness of unconsciousness, we'd probably be very interested in facts and intel and secret information and the science and all the other orthodoxies which seem to serve us really well in our life, certainly in our early childhood. Rote memory and learning facts and figures helps us navigate and problem solve, and that's all really good. But probably if we're stuck there and put all of our faith in orthodoxy and beliefs, we're probably not going to rise too far in our consciousness. The second level, I think we move into the idea of more of a seeking and a questioning and more of a skepticism about things. We're moving into the idea of using discernment and our own thinking to move more from the idea of beliefs and facts to more of ideas and philosophies. And I think ideas and philosophies definitely resonates with a lot of the people in this group. And in the final state, the consciousness of being conscious, I think we would see that as a knowing. I think many times in our lives we do have glimmers of of knowing. We don't have facts to support our belief. We don't have, but we have a gut feeling, a feeling in our heart, and we probably in our best moments in life we are living from our knowing sense. They're not necessarily rational decisions, but they're part of our passion and part of our life journey and part of our destiny here in this lifetime. Um, I had a conversation after the call with Alice, our resident astrologer, and we love Alice. And Alice is looking to put together a talk for us, and she mentioned the idea of discussing karmic debt. And I'm certainly open to all topics and all discussions, but I did challenge Alice to give a little more thought to how to frame that. The idea of karmic debt, to me, to my hearing, sounds a little bit like punishment, or no one wants to be indebted or have to pay back or be in trouble. um, and I suggested she think of that as instead of karmic debt from one lifetime to another lifetime, maybe she could see it as a karmic transition between our different stages in this very life. We do start out in our unconsciousness of being unconscious. That as we move into the next phase of being conscious of being unconscious, we could maybe that's an opportunity to pay back some karmic debt, which is not so much atoning or being punished, but it's just simply leaving it behind, leaving something behind that's not serving us so well. During this month of October, I've been sharing the references to the Elizabeth Bishop poem One Art, which is the art about losing. And I've said before, none of us like to lose or give up or fail, but sometimes there can be something that miraculous happens when we fail and are forced to leave something behind, something that's not serving us so well. And that's how I'm trying to think of karmic debt right now. It's just things I don't need anymore, but I didn't know I didn't need them because they seem to be serving me so well until I got to the next level. So we're looking at the idea of facts and figures and orthodoxy, and then moving on to the idea of ideas and philosophy, and finally into the idea of knowing. So try to give that some thought this week. Where are you? And I speak for myself that I'm in a lot of those different areas. I have issues and concerns and life crises which keep me spend a lot of time in the first level, but in my spare time and when I'm engaging with other people, I feel like I'm doing pretty well, firing on a number of cylinders in that middle area. And then in my most peaceful, contemplative mode, I do have moments, brief moments of knowing, and I hope you're experiencing the same. Anya Gramone on the call a number of weeks ago mentioned to us the idea of having the our small conscious self and our larger unconscious self, and that hangs very nicely with what Pat shared this last week. So I appreciate that. Also, Jim Downs on the call has added the additional framing that instead of thinking of this as our larger unconscious self, we could think of as an opportunity of our larger superconscious self. In the month of September, we had a Saturday where we shared resources that are important to each one of us, and we compiled quite a list. Karen was very good about organizing and capturing all the different sources, and our qualifying point on what was shared and what we would include would be resources that are a continuing and ongoing resource. They aren't just salacious one-off videos or fun things to listen to that we all do enjoy, but these are ongoing resources, things that are a continuing reference and resource that put out material on a regular basis that is consistent and clear, and people have experienced insight and growth by availing themselves to these. So they're worthy. We do believe these are worthy of sharing. The list is quite extensive. I'm not aware of all of the resources, but we do have the Penny Kelly resource on there that Risa shared, which is very helpful to her and holistic living. We also have a source for the Schumann resonance, which seems interesting. We have the Operation Disclosure, which sounds entertaining. Of course, the X-22 report was recommended by a number of people. And also on the list, many things I've not heard of, including the Yellow Rose of Texas, which sounds that sounds intriguing. Also included on the list, of course, is the Jim Downs Resource for the Positive Qualities Company, where you can sign up for a free weekly pairing of words, which is a very insightful look into the world of additivity. The idea of two things combined can be greater than their sum. We've also included the Edgar Cayce Foundation, which you can sign up for a free thought of the day, which is terrific and very helpful. And I also included the Washington National Cathedral link, which is our only listing under religious. I certainly can understand that as a number of us have moved on from orthodoxy and rote beliefs, religion seems to be something that is a karmic debt that needs to be left behind, something that's not serving people so well, but I still avail myself to it, and for a number of reasons, but most of which is similar to what Pat said. Pat mentioned as coordinator, before she became coordinator in Missouri, she had a lot of things going, a lot of good things going. She was involved in various groups and activities and networking. She was on it. She was on it in many, many ways. For me, my starting point at the start of the pandemic was reaching out to Washington National Cathedral. As my home church shut its doors, literally shut its doors on our congregation, I tuned in to Washington National Cathedral and found it very helpful. But the first thing I thought was, wow, they really need to have a coffee hour here. And much to my surprise, when I mentioned it in an email to Dean Hollerith at the cathedral, the next Sunday I was invited to a national Sunday coffee hour. And much to my delight, I was able to tune in each week to people from, hundreds of people from across the country and around the world. And that coffee hour still continues. And it was very much a precursor and a model for the coffee hours I've been hosting here in Illinois ever since. Washington National Cathedral, also, just for those of us who like the salacious tidbits, is ground zero for every political funeral, event, or dedication in Washington, D.C. Of course, was the site of Ronald Reagan's funeral and of George Bush's funeral, where those infamous envelopes were handed out in people's programs. So it's kind of a cosmically charged place, in addition to being a very conventional and structured Christian rite, if you're interested in that. In all of these journeys and resources, we are doing just this. We're sharing, we're trying to hear each other, listen to each other, and share what we can. So again, I thank Karen for putting together the resource list, and I will be sharing it in our Slack platform and in Telegram. And if you would like a copy of the resource list, please send me an email and I'll be happy to send it your way. And we're certainly open to having you join us here at Illinois Bridging Awareness. If you think you know some like-minded people, be sure to direct them our way, and we'll be happy to include them. The Saturday call is every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central Time. I will include my email in the description of this video, and no matter where you are in your play within a play, I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.